All right, this is the Front Row Podcast, and I'm Coach Mark Gottfried. I'm having a blast interviewing some great people and having great conversations. And today, I'm really excited because I've got my college basketball coach, who I played for at the University of Alabama. We had great teams and great players and good coaches, but I have it's an honor, Coach, honestly, to have you on. I've got Wimp Sanderson, who is probably one of the all-time great coaches throughout the Southeastern Conference. And Coach, I'm glad to have you on. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm glad to do it with you, and I hope it goes off well. I'll tell you what I know, which is not much, but I enjoyed you playing for me, and we'll try and see what. I'm not very technical in my. I looked at a lot of offense that was technical, but as far as television and radio, I'm a little bit lost.
So we're going to start with this story. All right, well, you and I are going to start.
All right.
So. My family moves to Alabama in 1981. I ended up playing 1 year of high school basketball in the state of Alabama. You were the head coach at the University of Alabama. And you recruited me out of high school, but not real hard, just kind of okay. You had a really good player named Enos Watley. You had some other really good players. But anyway, I ended up at Oral Roberts for 1 year. And, at the end of that season, it changed. And now all of a sudden you had an interest in bringing me to Alabama. So, I have my version of the story, but I want to hear your version of that story. You came to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and you take it from there. What happened?
Well, I can't remember how I got the word that you were interested in maybe leaving Oral Roberts, but I did get that information. You could probably answer that for me better than I can. I can't remember a lot of things. So I had tried to recruit you out of high school. You started naming off Duke of North Carolina to me when I was in your home. And so I kind of was 88 and out the gate on that interview. So when you went to Oral Roberts, we kept up with you and saw that you played and that you were a good player. And then I got the word that you might be wanting to come back towards Alabama. So I think I may have put Silas McKinney on you a little bit. I'm not sure of that. You may want to correct me on that. One of my assistant coaches, or maybe he told me that you might be interested. So I flew out there, and we had a visit. I told you I thought you could play for us, and that we'd love to have you, and tried to recruit you in the right way. And finally, I guess. After some talking and maybe a night, you decided to say yes. So I'm not telling this exactly right, but we're on the way to the airport, and I'm trying to get you to sign the paper. And so we're in a taxi. They had taxis back. They didn't have the Hoover deal back then. And we pulled over to the side, and I pulled the papers out of my pocket, and we got on top of the taxi. And you signed the paper.
Yep.
And when you did, I was 88 and out the gate. So that was one of the I signed a lot of guys in a lot of different places, but never on a taxi. And I was afraid that if I left, that somebody else was going to come in there and try to recruit you, and it was going to be a mess. And so I had to fly back and forth to keep in the fold. So I did what I could do to get you to either tell you that if you didn't sign it this time, he was going to sign somebody else. Probably weren't, but that's probably what I said. And you kind of hemmed and hawed a little bit, played hard to get a little bit. And although you had some other places you could have gone, I'm sure, but your old coach had left. I think the coach that you went out there to play for is either got out of it or something happened there, but he wasn't going to be there the next year, I don't think. You can correct that. So we ended up getting you signed, and I got to the airport and got home and signed you on top of the taxi.
And that is about as true can be right there. I remember you telling me, I was young, that I was a freshman in college, but at one point you said, I'm going to stay in this hotel as long as it takes you to sign. I felt bad. I said, I can't keep in the hotel forever. Then you said, I'm leaving, and you were heading out of town. You were going back. So I figured I might as well go ahead and sign. And I remember signing with you on the top of a taxi cab. How about that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. After he'd been with me about a year, and I worked him pretty hard, I think he wished he was back in there and torn that thing up on top of that taxi. Stayed out there at Oral Roberts, because when they got there, I had a new team, and I pretty much I had only been there a year, and as the head coach, and so I did things a little bit different than the preceding coach. So he probably thought well, I know he did after a year. Woo, wow, I left Oral Roberts for this.
Coach, tell me a little bit about when you started coaching, very first started coaching. Kind of the journey from that point until you became the head coach at the University of Alabama.
Well, when I got through it with playing at North Alabama, I only played basketball. I had gone down to the coaching clinic in Tuscaloosa to see if I could find a job, and I couldn't get one because I had not played football. All the football coaches in high school wanted an assistant coach had played football. It could be the basketball coach, but he had played football. And I had not, so I wasn't having much luck getting a job. Finally, I got a call from Carbon Hill High School, which is a school in Walker County, a fairly small school, that the basketball coach was fixing to become the principal. The principal had resigned at the last minute, and the basketball coach, who was from North Alabama, is going to become the principal, and they need a basketball coach. So they called me, and I went down to visit, and it was okay. I didn't have hardly anything at that time. Just my first son had just been born, and so I got down there and looked it over, and they gave me an opportunity to stay in an apartment behind Carbon Hill, which is a little apartment there. And so I didn't have any furniture. I didn't have anything ready. So I took some orange crates and I turned them over. Well, actually, I took some spools. That's why you put cable around them. And I got me 2 or 3 of those, and I flipped them over and I used it as a bedside table. And then I got some orange crates, and I got those, and I put underwear in one and socks in another, and I had a $10 stove and a $5 refrigerator. And so I moved in there to coach, and they had a good team. They had some good players, and I didn't know how it was going to be, but I thought they were going to be pretty good. So I got busy trying to do well there, and we won 25 games and lost 4. Got beaten in the district tournament. A brand new son and a brand new place. And my high school coach was assistant football coach and a little bit of basketball at university. And he said to me, we might be going to have an opening. Eugene Lambert, the head coach of Alabama, might be going to leave. And if they do, I've got a shot to get the job. And if I do, I could bring you down here as a GA, which would be just a graduate assistant, and you can go to school. So that went along there doing baseball season, and all of a sudden that happened. And he called me. He said, I can bring you down to Tuscaloosa. Whew. And we can get you in the barracks to live, which are right next to Coleman Coliseum at the time. They were actually right where Coleman Coliseum parking is now. I can get another job at Pritchard Moore, and I think I can pay. I think I'm right. I can pay you $175 a month. Yeah, there were not many people have taken that. I said, "We'll take it. I'll take it." So I took the job. I started unloading all of that junk out of the house, and when I did, the top of that $10 refrigerator fell off and went down in the woods. And that's how sorry the place was. So I mean, and so I just left it. I just told him, I said, leave it down there. Don't worry about it. Just leave it. So one time, Jim, my youngest boy, had just been born. So it's my time to heat the bottle. So I get out the bed I go in there and I get the bottle and I put it in a can of water it was gas stove. I turned the gas stove on and I put my head between my hands and I took me a nap while the bottle was heating. I looked up and I was heating the ketchup bottle. So I heat the cotton picking ketchup bottle. So little things like that, I go back, I think about them, they're funny as it could be. Anyway, we got all the stuff on this truck. We wrapped this truck around with rope, what stuff that we had. The guy took off to Tuscaloosa. How about this one? I had a black 1955 Studebaker. Holy smokes. A 1955 President, by the way, President Studebaker. That's what I had. And so when I got to Tuscaloosa, the guy didn't show up. And I waited. The guy had gone to the wrong place with that furniture. Well, finally, late that afternoon, he got there and we unloaded it. And so I started my coaching career with going to college. I had Snake Stabler in one of my classes. I had Joe Namath in one, and a lot of football guys, a lot of basketball guys, and we had freshman teams, and I coached the freshmen. And then that 1 year stayed into 20. Coach Riley got let out after 12 years, 10 or 12, and then C.M. Newton took over after that, and he was there. I think he was there 12 years, and Hayden was there 10 years. So I was there 20 years when when the second coach left, and I got the opportunity to be the head coach. And that was in 1980. And you were out. I think you were in 1981. You were a senior, I believe that's right.
Yep.
And so in 1980, I got the head job, and we did okay. We had good players, pretty good team. But I thought the real key to it was to really work hard in the recruiting part of it. And there were a lot of players in Birmingham, a lot of players in the state of Alabama I felt like we need to get. Because, to be honest with you, nobody really wanted me to have the job except by then, Annette and Jim Scott and Barry. Those three, they would tickle death for me to have it. Most people would say, Coach Bryant didn't want to have a program. He hired somebody that didn't have any varsity experience coaching, and they didn't want basketball at Alabama to start with. So off I went, and for 12 years, we did okay. We had good teams, we had good players. I worked them hard. They didn't particularly care for me I'm sure Mark will tell that story. They didn't particularly care for me while I was coaching them. But after they got through and left and looked back at it, I think they thought maybe that although everything I did wasn't perfect, that the things I had done probably made them a little bit better. Gave them a little bit more discipline on and off the court, made them behave a little bit, made them, get to class, made them behave themselves. And we had 10 NCAA teams in that 12 years. We had 6 Final 16s. Mark's team got to the Final 8. I never could get there. I got to the 16 6 times. I believe it was, 6. And never got by that game, which game's hard to get by, and I didn't get by it. But we had good teams and good players, and got basketball off to a good start. And then 92, I was out.
Yeah. Coach, did you, first of all, we learned a lot from you, and I played for you, so I'm going to speak for a lot of the players, because we talk, players always talk. I don't know that any player that played for you would say that they didn't learn how important it was to work hard. Like there was never a day go by that you let us off the hook as far as hard work. Like we understood how hard you had to play to win. And I think all of the players would agree, and that's a lesson that transfers into everything you do in life. I mean, everything you do in life.
Yeah.
And we all respected and still do respect to this day that to play for Coach Sanderson, you better play hard. You better play hard or you ain't going to play. You're going to sit over there on the bench.
Yeah.
And I think that's a common theme.
Yeah, I didn't take the job for a popularity contest. A lot of times when coaches get an opportunity to coach after they've been an assistant a long time, they want everybody to like them. Well, I didn't. I cared, but I didn't. I wasn't coaching them for them to get them to like me. I wanted them to know that I cared about them as people. And I thought that was the real key. If I could get them to understand I was caring about them as people. I wanted them to win. I wanted them to play hard and all those kinds of things. But I wanted them to feel like that all the discipline I was trying to give them, and some was right and some was wrong probably, that they understood that it was in their best welfare. And sometimes when you go through hard times, and we talked about that a little bit when you and Jim were here, you go through hard times, it's not much fun to go through those hard times. But when you get through them and look back at them, you're glad you did. Mm-hmm. And although I was disappointed we didn't get by the 16, people have to realize that if you don't get great draws, if you're an 8 or 9 seed, 7, 8 or 9 seed, you get tough games. And to win two to get to the final 16 wasn't easy. Mm-hmm. We were good, and we played well in the SEC tournament, and so we had fun times.
A lot of people, and even I, Coach, we were sitting in your living room here about a month ago. Jim Farmer, who played for you, and he and I were roommates, and we're sitting in your living room. We had a great day that you mentioned. 10 of those 12 years you were in the SEC tournament championship game, which I've actually mentioned that to some people, and that in itself, Coach, is something that I had Tim Brando on, and I mentioned it to Tim, and it's something that kind of goes maybe a little bit overlooked, and how hard that is to get in that tournament with that level of coaches and players to that game 10 out of 12 years. I'm not sure. I can guarantee that's never been done. Maybe at Kentucky, I don't know. Probably I didn't even think Kentucky has done that. That's pretty powerful.
Well, we played a lot of different venues. We won at Kentucky, which was a huge win for us. We won at Atlanta. We won in Knoxville. We won in Vanderbilt. We won in Orlando. We won a lot of different places. I put a lot of emphasis on the tournament, more so maybe than the other coaches. The SEC tournament fell right during spring holidays. And if you weren't careful, your guys were anxious to go to Florida with their girlfriends during that period of time rather than get ready for basketball. I tried to make it a little bit different than that. When you got the trophy, you were considered the champions of the SEC. Now, people say that shouldn't have been that way, and probably it shouldn't have. We had an 18-game round-robin schedule. Maybe the round-robin deal should have been more important, but it wasn't to me. And we got our guys to really key in on it. We did a few things different offensively. The coaching didn't have anything to do with it, but I think the getting ready to play and the excitement of playing and wanting to play and wanting to win the trophy was a little bit bigger maybe for us and our kids than it was for some other teams who thought, just as the tournaments get over with, we're through, or we're going to NCAA tournament. So I thought it was more. I thought it was more important than some of the coaches thought it was, right. And the tournament was. The funny part about it was that of the years that we got in it, we ended up getting in the finals 3 times in Birmingham and lost every time. Mm-hmm. And but the rest of the times, we got to the finals and played awfully well. So that was a big plus for us.
Jim and I, Jim Farmer, we came to your house, and the next day we went up to Murray State, and Tavester Anderson was there, who followed me, who was on my staff and followed me, but he was on one of those staffs at Auburn, and Jim and I walked in, and he leaned over and showed us his SEC championship ring from, I think it was 1985 or 6, when Auburn beat us, and he said, "I just want to thank you, too, for this ring," and because late in that game, I think Jim missed about a couple foul shots. I think I traveled. We didn't help you on the end of that game, Coach, and we lost that one to Auburn and Sonny Smith. But we came back the next year then, and I think we beat LSU in the championship game in Atlanta. I want to say it was in the SEC tournament.
Yeah, that was a big game. Yeah, we did that game. I put Jim on the line, and Jim missed the cut and picking free throws. But Jim was good. He was a good player for us. But everybody misses them, and some make them. But the next year we went back to Atlanta and we played LSU in the finals and won that one. But the longer we played each year, the better we got. And the thing that I learned was that when I got to February, I backed off.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we practiced hard, but our practice went for maybe an hour and 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I would see some coaches say, "We're practicing 3 hours getting ready for this tournament." I didn't do it that way.
Mm-mm.
We changed a little bit of stuff that we did on offense and defense, especially offense. But we just simply worked really hard for an hour and 15 minutes and got out of there.
Yep.
And I think we were live-legged more so than most people. And I thought we were better at the end of the season than we were at the beginning, even though we'd gone through a long, long season.
It's still it's interesting, all the success we had, because I was very fortunate, to play on 3 straight Sweet 16s and SEC championship with you. We had great players, great teams. And, my senior year was 86-87 year. And, you got to have a little luck along the way, too, in the tournament, teams that have gone to Final Fours, sometimes it's a bounce of the ball, too. A guy makes or misses a shot.
Sure.
But, a lot of people don't remember the story. We're the 2 seed. We get an opportunity to play in Birmingham. We played New Orleans in the first game, and Benny Dees, who was an assistant with you at one time, was the head coach, and we just pounded them. I mean, just pounded them. And then that was the second game. The first game, I think we played North Carolina A&T. Then the second game, we pound New Orleans. But prior to the game, we're sitting there, and we're the next game, and we're watching Illinois play Providence play Austin Peay. Austin Peay had upset Illinois. Rick Pitino's a young coach at Providence, and he's got Billy Donovan and Delray Brooks and that crew. And a lot of people forget this. They don't remember this. Providence fouls Austin Peay with no time or whatever, 1 second on the clock. And this game's tied.
We're tied.
And the guy for Austin Peay, all he's got to do is make one foul shot, just one. And we're sitting there, and we're thinking, okay, hell, we're going to play Austin Peay in the Sweet 16 because they're going to beat Providence. And the guy misses 2 foul shots, and Rick Pitino's team of Providence ends up beating him in overtime. We beat New Orleans, and now we got to play Providence in Louisville instead of playing Austin Peay, which we should have beat either one of them. But Providence got hot. They just got hot. They were shooting a 3. It was the first year for the three-point line. They were firing away left and right, the three-pointers and all that kind of stuff. But, the bounce of the ball or a made foul shot could have potentially changed the trajectory or, the finish of that team. Would you agree?
Yeah, could have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it certainly could have. It was disappointing. We didn't do a real good job of defending the 3-point shot, although Delray Brooks and them and Billy and them just shot the lights out. I don't know that we could have defended them maybe a little better, but they just had one of those nights where they just busted it. They were very, very good. So we got put out there with, I guess, probably, I'm always very careful to say about best player or best team, but that was close to being the best team.
Yeah.
We had.
Well, it was such a we could shoot it ourselves. We had, Derek McKee was the SEC Player of the Year. Terry Connor was a phenomenal guard. Jim was a really good player. Michael Ansley, Keith Askins. I think Jim and I counted it, the guys that at least got drafted or played in the NBA. Terry, myself, Jim was 3, Derek 4, Mike Ansley 5, Keith Askins 6. And guys that were not, those guys weren't, none of us were really like the 5-star recruit either. You helped develop all of us.
Yeah.
We got a lot better playing at Alabama than we were coming in. If you look at that group on the front end, it wasn't a group on paper that you would have said, okay, this is going to be a, SEC championship team in a couple years, because it wasn't like, we were all, parade All-Americans back then. We were just good players that got better.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think, I think the hard work that you put in, you're very gifted. All of you were, and you had, great potential, and you went your own way and played. All of you played somewhere, but it was certainly a disappointing game for us against Providence. And of course, Rick's done a good job coaching his team, and they won the game. So it was one of those things where that happens to you. You play enough tournament games, the SEC tournament, the NCAA tournament. It's all of that stuff is one and done. You go to the NBA now. It's you lose the first one, you got 6 more.
Yep,
got 6 more games after that. So it's just a one and done type thing. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Coach, when you coached in the SEC and through that 12 years you were the head coach at Alabama, and you look through the league back then, and you look at the coaches. You had Hugh Durham at Georgia, Norm Sloan at Florida, Dale Brown at LSU, probably through Joe B. Hall and Eddie Sutton maybe at Kentucky. At Auburn, Sonny Smith. I mean, you had great coaches who were also characters, by the way, a lot of characters in that league, but great coaches. Was there anybody in the league back then that you just said, boy, when we get to play this team, man, we've got to be this coach, like, all of them were good coaches, but did any of them pose any kind of problems that you said, okay, I got to really be on my A game, or we got to really be good tonight against this guy or that guy?
Well, there's some places that, going to Kentucky was not an easy deal. You felt like you were going to play 8 of them when you got there, but not particularly. I think all the coaches did a really good job of coaching their team, always ready to play, and it was when we played the basketball schedule now that in the SEC is quite different. Of course, you got more teams. We played everybody home and home. There's some cases where an SEC team doesn't even go to Kentucky, doesn't go to Arkansas and play at all. So they have a different way of doing it, which is okay. But the league basketball has changed and football has changed with the number of teams that are going to each place. To think that the UCLAs and the USCs are going to the Big Ten is mind-boggling to me. It's games have just completely changed.
Yeah. Coach, when you were go back to you're a guy that grew up in the state. You grew up in Alabama. At that time, obviously, Bear Bryant was rolling in football at Alabama, and the championships and the prestige and all the things about that. And then you come to a place where the press conference ends. You were just named the head coach at the University of Alabama. Again, you're a guy that grew up in the state. And tell me a little bit about how that felt like right then, because that's quite an accomplishment for a young person to do that.
Yeah, I was. I had been there a long time, and I had done the majority of the recruiting for both coaches. I sort of knew where the players were and worked to get them. So when I got the opportunity to be the head coach, I took it. I took it that even though I was known a lot throughout the state, there were a lot of people who questioned. Anytime you have a coaching change, you have a question mark as to who the new coach is going to be. You do that every day. Coach Bryant couldn't be at the press conference. He was out of town. In fact, he knew that he was, knew I was getting the press conference. He had to be out of town. So he got back in town, and I needed to run down and thank him for giving me the opportunity. It's in I've written a book, and it's in that book. But I go down and knock on the door. When Coach Bryant would come to the door after I just tell you to open the door, he would always walk towards you with those glasses down on his nose. And he's a big guy. I didn't sit down at all. I just came in. I said, Coach, I just wanted to thank you for giving me the opportunity to be the basketball coach at Alabama. He said, I didn't have a damn thing to do with it because I damn sure stopped it. And so I didn't know exactly how to answer that. He was saying to himself, I have a feeling. I thought, well, he didn't want to say he had anything to do with it in case I failed. But that was a funny, and naturally he was the one that had to okay it. But he just that's what he said, and that was a unique answer to just thanking him. It's Sunday afternoon, and I am in the hall getting a drink of water, and we had just beaten Georgetown with Patrick Ewing, and we beat Georgetown and Southern Cal with Bob Boyd's, two great teams out there. And you couldn't beat Southern Cal out there against the rules. And we were going to play UCLA, and they were number one in the country. And I had been up there looking at film. We were trying to get ready to go. Coach Bryant Coach Bryant walks through the double doors. The reason I'm telling this story is I told you about going into Coach Bryant's office to thank him for getting the job. I wanted to tell you about the last time I saw him alive, which I think is a little bit interesting. We have won the two games in California against Southern Cal and Georgetown, Patrick Ewing. And we're to go out and we're to play. We're going out and we're going to play UCLA, number one in the country, which is a big deal for us. A big deal, we thought, for them too. So Coach Bryant gets to feeling bad on Sunday night. And Monday he's feeling a lot worse. He goes in the hospital. And I could tell by the way the secretaries were answering the phone that things wasn't quite right. They wouldn't say much, but the rumor had gotten out that he'd gotten pretty sick. So on that Sunday, when he came through the double doors to my office, for whatever reason, he'd never been in my office ever before. He pulled up a chair, and I went in and I pulled up one and sat beside him and talked to him. And he told me about mistakes he'd made with Snake Stabler, how he handled him very well in coaching him, and about some games against University of Georgia that they played, just different things. I didn't think anything about it. He left that Sunday afternoon, got on the elevator and left. And so that Monday, he got feeling bad. Tuesday, he was feeling bad in the hospital. And we're to fly out on Thursday. On Wednesday, they come to the workout, secretary does, and said, they're fixing to announce that Coach Bryant has passed away. And I said, ooh, wow, we got terrible. I hate that. Something terrible. That part is awful. And I need to know this game that we've got with UCLA is a pretty big game. We got everybody that's supposed to be anybody at the game. I never will forget this. I went to the telephone. We got out of practice. I went to the telephone and I called Paul Jr. And I said, Paul Jr., I'm so sorry about Coach passing away. And I said, I don't want to bug you with this right now, but we're supposed to leave tomorrow for the game. It's Thursday. And I said, I just wanted to know what your thoughts were. And he said, interesting sentence to me, Papa would have wanted you to play. And when he said that, it kind of really, I thought it was a great sentence. Papa would have wanted you to play. And we went to UCLA and went and on that Thursday. We saw the funeral from the hotel room. The television cameras were there. They went down. They took the body down through Centerville, Alabama, and a lot of little small towns with American flags and Alabama flags and so forth, holding them up. And of course, they buried him in Birmingham. So we won the game by 2 points. I'm not saying it because we won the game for Coach Bryant, but we won the game. We played well, and I don't know whether to tell this part of the story or not, but we had a kid on our team that had gotten like 26 one night, 28 the next and one of my buddies is assistant coach at UCLA. He'd come to watch us play. They would scout us. I don't know what happened. We went back from that week or so, but I didn't like the way he acted, and I suspended him. And so he's not going to play. That's how hard-headed I was. It's kind of an interesting story because nobody in America would do it. I took him with a team and made him sit on the bench in street clothes just to see what he's missing. And my buddy who had scouted us said, crap, we thought we'd beat you 100. He scored almost 30 points two games in a row. You suspended him. I said, well, that's what I did. And so we won the game. And, of course, it was a big deal. Not because it was UCLA number one, and it was happened on certainly a bad week.
Mm-hmm. Coach, you and I share kind of a similar thing that we both coached at Alabama. And then, later it took me a while. Just took me a while to my feelings were hurt, and I wasn't the coach here any longer. Yeah. And you had went through it, and you've handled it a lot better than I did. In the state, and you lived there in Birmingham, and I ended up moving away, and I ended up going to NC State and coaching and all those type things. But just talk about that a little bit, because for me, it was just hard. It was I played there. Yeah. It's my alma mater. Like yourself, and I look back at you and I, and, collectively, the two of us, we had a lot of success as coaches. I was able to play for you, but then I was able to coach at Alabama too, and you coached there.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of wins, a lot of but it was really hard for me, to step back in the gym. They honored our team, that 87 team, a few years back, and I got a call from somebody who said they want to bring you back, Mark, and your team's going to come back. And I remember telling them, I said, I'm not going. I was coaching NC State, and they said, well, we put the game on a night where we felt like you might be able to come. And Jim Farmer called me. I said, Jim, I'm not coming. And he said, well, you got to come. I said, I'm not coming. Then I think Derek McKee called me. I said, Derek, you all can call me, but I ain't coming. I'm not doing it. And then you called me and said, we want you to come, Mark. You really need to be there. Yeah. And, I talked to my father. My dad said, Mark, that's your team and that's your coach. No matter how tough it is for you to walk back in that gym, that's your coach, and you need to be there. And I went, and I'm happy I went, Coach. I'm happy, and to be with you and the other guys that were played on those teams. That was an SEC championship team in 1987. We went 16-2 in the league, which was a great league. Sweet 16, all those type things. But I know for you at times that was a little difficult and it's a little hard.
Yeah, it was.
But I think you've handled maybe a little better than I have throughout the years.
Oh, I don't know that I have. I don't think I don't know that I have. It's you sort of know who your friends are after problems, I think. But regardless of what kind of problems, regardless of where they are, you kind of know who your friends are and where they are. And so life is hard sometimes, and difficult sometimes, and disappointing sometimes, and that's just the way it went, and that's the way it continues to go for me right now. I do a radio show now, and I try to be careful about what I say about they have a good team, and I try to be sure that I say the right things, and but it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, and you have love for the school. I do, and people there, and you look back and you have great memories, and but they like to talk sometimes about the greatest teams, and I always, in my mind, I always go, hold on, slow down nowadays, because we had some pretty good ones and pretty good players. And even after the era that I played in with you, then right after that era, became some guys that Robert Ory and James Hollywood Robinson and blah blah blah. The list is long of not good players, but great players. Latrell Sprewell, and you had a run. You were able to take kind of that run we had, and then turn it into another great run with some great players as well right after us.
Yeah, we were good, but we worked hard to get the guys that we had and to try to get them to understand what we were trying to do for them, and also to get the support fan wise. Sometimes you lose a game, they feel like the season's over with. Basketball's a long season, 25, 30 games. Losing one game doesn't mean anything. And sometimes you feel like they end up coming according to who you play. They don't come to see their team. And that was somewhat of the problem with the coach before me. He felt like they came to see who they played rather than coming the Alabama team. So I think that occurs in the football atmosphere. And in the football atmosphere, you have to support it, and you can. I mean, I like football and kept up with it. And went to Coach Bryant's practices and enjoyed it a great deal. And all the football coaches, friend of mine, went through 4 ADs. 3 of them were good. One of them wasn't very good. So it was good.
Yeah. Coach, you got 3 boys that have done really, really well in life, and they're great people. Scott, Jim, and Barry, and I know them all really well. And I ask people this question a lot. I was lucky I had 5 children, and you've had 3, but those guys have all done really, really well, and they're great people. But if you look back and I've asked this question, if you could have said, I just want to gift you guys a characteristic, if I could give you something, and you probably did with your boys, but parenting is hard, by the way. It's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. And sometimes you're trying your best and they still mess up, and that's part of life. But what would some of those characteristics be if you could go back and say, man, if I could just give you these couple things, what would they be with your children?
Well, I think you have to do it the right way, but you have to do it your way. You have to do it the way that's best for the kids that you coach. If you're coaching, my guys coached, but you have to, you have to work hard, but you have to get them to understand, and you have to. Everybody's personality is not the same, and you have to understand that the players that you coach, their personalities are different too, and their parents are sure different, and that you as the coach or you as the daddy or whatever need to be darn sure that you treat those kids the way you expect people to treat yours. And I think that's the big thing, and I think most of my guys have. I've still got 2 of my 3 coaching. I don't try to coach their teams. I may tell them something, but I don't try to coach their teams. They coach their own teams, do it the way they need to do it. But you got to be yourself, and if yourself is not the way you want it, then you got to make it better.
Mm-hmm.
You got to do better with it. Just to be yourself. If you're making mistakes being yourself, you got to correct it. I think pretty much that's what I would tell my kids.
Yep. Well, Coach, I had I look back and I appreciate you. I was able to tell that to you to your face in Birmingham.
Yeah, I
loved. I look back and coaching is hard. Number one, I did it, and it's hard, and you're not always going to make everybody happy, and you're not going to meet everybody's expectation. But as we got older, and I've gotten older, I look back on my experience playing for you, and wouldn't trade it for anything. So I appreciate
I wouldn't trade for you playing for me either, and Jim and all those guys, and I was pretty tough on everybody. But I called Derek McKee. I told you this story. Derek McKee was our postman. I said, Derek, Jim and Mark are driving all the way down here to see me from Nashville. So he said, they are? And I said, yeah. I said, you don't think you bring the gun, do you? he said, he starts laughing. He said, no, I don't think so, Coach. I think that's all over.
Well, anyway, Coach, I just want to say thank you for being on the podcast, and we'll do it again sometime soon.
Good. All right, thank you.
All right, Coach. All right, buddy. Thank you.